Yeah.
And you weren't really sparring. You were fighting. We were fighting all the time. And just guys getting dropped all the time. And that was just the kind of gym.
There's no coming back from that. The people who, like, dissipate their teeth through drug usage, you don't get, like, a second set.
Like he got out of first gear. Jake Paul was just on pure survival mode from round 1 right through to round 6. I don't know if he's got a moral victory going 6 rounds. Maybe he has. People might give him credit for going 6 rounds. But he got in there and just survived. He just went in there and ran like a chicken from round 1 right through to round.
Joe Rogan was shocked by the serious career-ending injury Jake Paul suffered during the Anthony Joshua bout. He emphasized that boxing is extremely dangerous, and continuing to fight could severely affect the brain and daily life. Experts reportedly warned that such injuries have long-term consequences, making it clear that taking these risks in the ring is extremely hazardous and potentially life-altering.
Because then you can't think, you can't do things, you don't know what the you're doing in life. It's like literally everything is the quality of your ability to think.
Look at all them celebrities, like dude from the Mighty Ducks, the little boy actor that got strung out on drugs. And all his fronts and all his teeth were missing from being on meth or whatever, whatever drug of choice he was on. There's no coming back from that. The people who, like, dissipate their teeth through drug usage, you don't get, like, a second set. So if I'm not mistaken, the dude from Mighty Ducks, somebody, like, he's been clean and they gave him a makeover and he has, like, pretty much fake teeth. So yeah, the teeth are gonna be cooked. Now, I agree with the other part that Rogan was saying, but let's keep going.
Yeah, I think he went into that fight knowing that was probably going to happen. Yeah. And ultimately, the big win for him would be that he was even willing to do it and that he could do well for a little bit.
Yeah, and I've already expressed my thoughts on this. I'm not giving no props for a person who says I am a real deal boxer because I went in and get smashed and got my jaw broken, but I lasted longer than Ngannou. But I was crazy enough to try, because to be honest, we're way past the honeymoon stage with a person like Jake Paul. You've been in this for long enough to go through fight camps, dedicate your time, effort, energy, money, spar with people. You spar with some quality names because you have resources and money or whatever. So we're well past that, to the point where you just get credit for stepping in. You maybe got credit your first fight or whatever, first couple of fights.
Joe Rogan has strongly cautioned Jake Paul to reconsider taking high-risk boxing matches, emphasizing that no career achievement is worth endangering one's life. After his recent fight with Anthony Joshua, Jake suffered severe damage, including a broken jaw and multiple lost teeth, which required extractions. Rogan points out that continuing down this path could lead to even more serious injuries, potentially permanent. He stresses that the excitement and fame of these bouts come at a high personal cost. Fans and fighters alike must recognize that health should always take precedence over glory in the ring.
That's usually what happened. What was always going to happen. A lot of people thought he would only last 1 round, 2 rounds, but you got to give Jake credit. He went out there and had a solid game plan and was implementing it at times, was landing shots and was avoiding getting hit with the big shots. But there's a reason we have weight categories in boxing, and I'd say he sticks with the cruiserweight division where the guys are the same size as him, because that, without having the schooling, the many years, I was able to give away 100 pounds in weight because I've been boxing since I was 10. I was an international amateur and world champion at cruiserweight. That's why I was able to do the big jump and use the tactics that he used to win the heavyweight championship. But credit to him, nothing but respect for Jake Paul for putting on such an event and putting himself in harm's way.
I would imagine some people back home for you are going to say, man, AJ should have gotten out of there in 2 rounds.
Anyone who understands boxing knows it's very difficult to close the range on someone who doesn't want to hold his feet. And is AJ supposed to just run around swinging and missing? No, he's supposed to wait for the right opportunity, which he did. And once the opportunity presented himself, he landed and the fight was over. But anyone who kind of gives AJ stick because he didn't knock him out in 1 round doesn't understand boxing.
What level would you say Jake Paul is after that performance? What level would you say Jake Paul is?
It's hard to tell. It's very, very difficult to see what level he was, because he was fighting someone in the top 5 and
David Hay reportedly explained why Anthony Joshua couldn't knock out Jake Paul in the first round, noting that even though Joshua didn't land extremely hard punches early, Jake still ended up injured. Hay emphasized that boxing doesn't work like instant knockouts. Jake was moving and avoiding heavy blows, but the accumulation of hits eventually took a toll. He stressed that Joshua shouldn't be criticized for not finishing Jake immediately, as controlling the fight and landing precise shots matter more. Despite surviving the early rounds, the damage Jake sustained shows just how dangerous boxing can be, even against measured attacks.
Not boxers like Anderson Silva, Tyron Woodley, none of them are boxers. Nate Robinson, who's a YouTuber. So I guess, over the hill, retired Mike Tyson, who's 60, almost lost his life before the fight and had blood transfusions and was coughing up blood and was transported off of a plane for passing out. And Jake Paul wanted to fight him and still tried to knock him out. A lot of y'all like to say he had mercy on Mike, but I promise you, I watched the fight. Just go back and watch it again. He was trying to knock Mike Tyson out from beginning to end. He could not do it. The reason he couldn't do it is because he refused to get too close to Mike Tyson, because Mike Tyson always would swing back, and he knew could not take that punch from Mike Tyson. So he hit and he ran. And at the end of the fight, he was not showing mercy on Mike. He was trying to make sure that he doesn't get knocked out or caught with something stupid, because he knows he's about to win. He didn't want to risk it. I'm not going to keep letting y'all run with this narrative that Mike Tyson was following a script with all these fake script posts running around on Facebook.
Analysts are increasingly vocal about Jake Paul's career trajectory, suggesting that he seriously reconsider continuing in boxing. They point out that throughout his career, Paul has largely avoided truly challenging opponents, often facing retired boxers, untested fighters, or athletes from other disciplines like MMA, which has made many question the legitimacy of his record. This pattern has kept fans and critics anxious, as Paul has never consistently proven himself against top-level competition. Now, after suffering knockouts at the hands of Anthony Joshua and Tommy Fu, analysts argue that the wrists have caught up with him. They stress that his previous avoidance of serious fights allowed him to maintain a strong record. But these recent defeats highlight that he may have reached the end of his viable boxing career, and continuing could be extremely dangerous.
He said before the fight, I'm going to break him down and then I'm going to knock him out. And that's exactly what he did. I thought it'd be all over within 3 rounds. But, when I got in the ring after, because I was shouting, just, anywhere, I got in, he went, what are you rushing me for? And I was like, oh, sorry. So, but like, obviously he knows what he's doing, and actually now quite pleased that we got the rounds, to be honest.
Yeah, I saw you said that. Really random, I was on Twitter and I saw Jake Paul's mum said she wants to get in the ring and punch you. She said she doesn't like the smug look on your face. She is promoting her book, so I'm not sure if she wants, But did you see that? What did you think of that?
No, I was very sad, because I couldn't have been nicer and more respectful of Jake and what he's done. And I think Logan's amazing. I think he's an incredible athlete. And I shook Jake Paul's dad's hand in the ring, And if I would have seen Mum, I would have said, all right. But I think over the years, we've obviously had our beef, and she probably don't like me anyway. And I am probably a little bit smug. I wasn't smug after the fight, because I would have been more smug if it was all over in a round. Yeah. So, no, I'll give Jake respect. And, sorry, Jake's mum doesn't like me, but if she can send me a free book.
Eddie Hearn reflects calmly on how the fight unfolded and believes everything went according to plan. He explains that the strategy was always about patience, control, and gradually wearing Jake Paul down before finishing the job. While Hearn initially expected a much quicker ending, he later admits he was satisfied that the fight lasted longer, allowing the plan to fully play out. He recalls moments inside the ring where Joshua stayed composed and unfazed, showing complete confidence and awareness. For Hearn, this performance proved Joshua's experience and ring intelligence. He also laughs off outside noise and online comments, making it clear that none of it distracts from the result or the execution.
Counted out, knocked out, whatever, however you want to call it. It wasn't a bad knockout. It wasn't an El Sparko. He wasn't rendered unconscious, but he got done. He got it on the chin. He went over. He didn't beat the count. He was sort of up on his feet, but if I'm honest, the whole fight was terrible, wasn't it? It was just so bad. It was just shit, wasn't it? A proper bad fight for AJ. And let me start with AJ. AJ was following him around the ring a little bit, sort of pouring with a jab, putting the jab on the shoulder of Jake Paul, sort of putting him in the corner and not really pulling the trigger on the right hand. He didn't seem to be motivated to go in there and just smash Jake Paul into oblivion in the first 1 or 2 rounds, which I think he could have done. But he's been out of the ring 15 months. He's a bit slow on his feet, a bit ring rust maybe, and it's hard. When I used to spar novice amateurs, even when I was a world champion pro, if you're not motivated, sometimes you can have a couple of bad rounds and you're sort of looking at your opponent and a jab hits you or right hand hits you. And I think AJ was in a bit of a daze early on, just walking him around, touching the jab on his shoulder, not really pulling the trigger on the right hand. Didn't look like he got out of first gear. Jake Paul was just on pure survival mode from round 1 right through to round 6. I don't know if he's got a moral victory going 6 rounds. Maybe he has. People might give him credit for going 6 rounds. But he got in there and just survived. He just went in there and ran like a chicken from round 1 right through to round 6 when he got splattered. And it's like, it's just, you can't really justify what he's done, because this is supposed to be a professional sanctioned boxing match. And I think it brings the integrity of the sport down when somebody like AJ, is a 2-time world champion, can't get in there and just completely dismiss somebody like Jake Paul, who I've said for ages can't fight. He's not a professional boxer. It's just AJ following him around, touching him to the shoulder. Round 1 came and went. Round 2 was much of the same, bit slow. I think AJ got caught with an overhand right at one stage, but sometimes when you're out in the rain, you're going to get wet. He was following him around, taking his eye off the ball, probably a bit undermotivated, thinking.
Carl Froch didn't hold back in his critique of Jake Paul's latest fight, labeling the entire event as a disgrace to the sport. He expresses disbelief that Paul is being celebrated at all, arguing that the hype surrounding the bout has more to do with spectacle than actual boxing ability. Froch highlights a troubling trend in modern boxing, where social media clout and entertainment appeal often overshadow genuine skill and achievement in the ring. He warns that if this continues, the integrity of the sport is at risk, and young fans may start valuing flash over technique. According to Froch, fights like these should not be allowed to define boxing, and regulators need to reconsider how such matchups are promoted. He emphasizes that preserving the sport's credibility must take priority over viral moments and online popularity contests.
There are a lot of allegations right now that the fight between Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua was rigged, or it was supposed to be rigged. According to the conspiracy theories, Jake Paul was supposed to win the fight, but Anthony Joshua decided to knock his ass out anyway. If it was supposed to be rigged, it would not be the first time that a fight in boxing was stained with corruption. But either way, it doesn't matter, because interest in seeing Jake Paul fight is on the decline. His fight last weekend averaged 33 million views on Netflix. Now, to his credit,
boxing analysts are making it clear that Jake Paul's recent fight exposed the limits of his credibility in the sport. They explain that just wearing gloves doesn't make a fighter legitimate, and hype alone can't sustain interest. Analysts point out that his previous spectacle with Mike Tyson already raised doubts, and the Joshua fight reinforced them. They note that genuine boxing fans are tuning out, as viewership for Paul's match fell short compared to high-level bouts like Canelo Alvarez versus Terrence Crawford. Some even discuss conspiracy theories about the fight's outcome, but experts agree that regardless of rumors, Paul's appeal is dropping, and relying on spectacle rather than skill can't carry a career in serious boxing anymore.
Anthony Joshua knocking out and breaking Jake Paul's jaw. Just talk to me right now about the fight itself and then we'll break it down.
Bit of a crap fight, if we're all honest. It was like watching Jaws 2 when all the kids went out on their boats and they were in the middle of the sea and the shark was just surrounding the boat, just like that's what it was like. It was just like a shark circling its prey and just like it was like nibbling and eventually got him. But Jake Paul showed big plums in there, no matter what anybody says about him, because I've seen people say, yeah, he went in there to survive. Yeah, okay, he went in there to survive. He's a guy that's been boxing a couple of years against a unified champion of the world who can really punch. Yeah, it wasn't the best but it just wasn't the best thing to watch, was it? Like it was just, yeah, it weren't great. I just want to see now Tyson Fury against Anthony Joshua. I think at the stages of their careers they're at, AJ and Tyson Fury, we don't need to see interim fights, Andrew. We don't need to see interim fights because they're just potential banana skins. We want to see two of the best heavyweights of this era.
Sam Jones delivers a candid and unfiltered reaction to Jake Paul's defeat at the hands of Anthony Joshua. He admits that the fight was uncomfortable to watch, not due to brutality, but because it exposed significant gaps in Paul's technique and understanding of the sport. Jones emphasizes that enduring a fight is not the same as performing as a skilled boxer. Simply dodging punches, clinching, or retreating may allow a fighter to survive rounds, but it does not demonstrate true competitiveness or mastery. He criticizes the reliance on evasive tactics, suggesting that fans and fighters alike should value active engagement, strategy, and technical proficiency over merely staying upright. According to Jones, matches like this highlight the difference between entertainment and genuine sport, showing that survival alone does not earn respect in the boxing world, and that true competition requires courage, skill, and consistent execution.
You know, like when you've got a fly on the windscreen and you're trying to swat it, and you're trying to swat it and you miss and you keep tapping, and then eventually, bang, you get it. That's exactly what that fight was. Jake Paul didn't get in there to win last night. He got in there to survive. And he didn't do a better job of surviving. He sold the fight brilliantly. That's what he is. He's a salesman. And he's a YouTuber, influencer, call him whatever you want. So from that perspective, he did his job, but he never got in there to win. He just got in there to got beat up. I'm glad Anthony Joshua done a number on him. This is why boxers are boxers, YouTubers, whatever they want to call themselves, influencers, you know, they should stay in their lane and fight people that they're supposed to fight on their level. This guy was never on Anthony Joshua's level, and Joshua did what he needed to do, did what he had to do for the sake of boxing, and blow this guy out and just knock him out.
What about the fact that Jake was able to land on him clean a couple of times? What did you make of that?
Listen, you can't get into the water without getting hit. Fortunately for Joshua, that guy can't break an egg. So he was never in any danger. You know, he's always going to get hit back. I mean, you know, it was 6 rounds. Anthony Joshua was always going to take at least 1 or 2 shots over that 6-round period, but it was nothing to hurt him. It was nothing to bother him. And like I say, this is all about getting AJ's confidence back. If Jake Paul fights, if he fights KSI or KFC or whatever his name is, then those two are evenly matched, aren't they? They're evenly matched, and then they could fight.
Duke McKenzie provides a straightforward and experienced perspective on the recent matchup between Anthony Joshua and Jake Paul. He emphasizes that his critique comes from a place of knowledge, rather than personal bias. McKenzie argues that the outcome of the fight speaks volumes without needing further commentary. The decisive nature of the knockout illustrates the disparity in skill and preparedness between the two fighters. He stresses that analyzing the performance is not about undermining anyone personally, but about acknowledging the realities of professional boxing. McKenzie highlights that moments like these serve as important reminders of the level required to compete at the top for him. The fight's result alone demonstrates the gap in ability and preparation, making additional debate unnecessary and reinforcing the point that success in boxing demands both talent and rigorous experience inside the ring.
Now, I know it's not easy to fight a guy that's running away from you, and Jake Paul made a ring bigger. It was 22 by 22.
It's a huge ring. When I was looking at it, I'm like, holy shit, this ring's massive.
I had said before the fight, I tweeted, I said, it was like a soccer field that they were, fighting in, right?
Yeah.
And, it's not easy to do that, but he just looked poor in there and like he didn't really care. And, you're being paid that much money, and people are, I looked at tickets today just to see on their ticket map how many tickets were left and what it was like. And there was tickets being sold for $3,500. And then this is the kind of performance, if you're AJ, that you give when you're being paid $35 million and people are paying that much money to get in. I thought that was, the whole show was awful. Netflix ought to be embarrassed for putting that on.
After the bout, discussions quickly turned to Jake Paul's next steps in boxing. Analysts and fans alike suggest that competing in the heavyweight division may not suit him, pointing to the clear differences in size, strength, and experience between him and opponents like Anthony Joshua. The mismatch highlighted the dangers of taking on fighters significantly larger and more seasoned, raising serious concerns about his safety. Observers emphasize that continuing at this level could lead to further injuries and long-term consequences. Many recommend that Paul reconsider his path, possibly focusing on divisions more appropriate to his build and skill set. The conversation underscores the importance of strategic career choices in boxing, where physical compatibility and risk assessment are just as crucial as ambition and entertainment value.